Again, it just shows how much he doesn't know. I know people talk about him as a genius, but to me, I think he's probably one of the dumbest, luckiest people to exist on this earth.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my channel. I am your host, your friend. Come on in and pull up a chair, because today we need to have a serious conversation about the direction of our country and the narratives being spun to divide us. I am just an ordinary citizen who believes deeply in democracy and the power of the people, not the power of oligarchs. Today, I want to talk about a story that highlights the dangerous worship of wealth over wisdom and the silencing of necessary dissent. Before we dive into the complexities of this moment, I have a small request for those who value critical thinking and compassion. If you believe in an America that works for everyone, not just the top 1%, please subscribe to the channel and share this with your community. It helps us keep the focus on real issues rather than the sensational distractions we see every day. Thank you to everyone who supports truth over tribalism. When I hear people dismissing legitimate criticisms of the powerful as merely fake or anti-American, it truly concerns me. We look at elected officials like Ilhan Omar, who represents a diverse and vibrant district. Yet she is constantly subjected to bad faith attacks simply because of her background. To suggest that a representative elected by the people is somehow illegitimate because of where they were born is an affront to the very Constitution we claim to cherish. We must not allow our nation to slide into a state where xenophobia dictates our political discourse. It is a brisk Tuesday, January 13th, 2026, and while the sun rises over our cities, a shadow of inequality looms large. The conversation dominating the headlines isn't about healthcare or housing, but about a petty feud instigated by the powerful against those who dare to question them. We are talking about the reaction to comments made regarding Elon Musk. While some hail him as a visionary staring at the stars, many of us see a chaotic figure who treats the public square like his personal playground. He is a man whose companies have benefited massively from government subsidies, yet he aligns himself with politicians who want to slash the social safety net for everyone else. Yesterday, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, a woman who has overcome incredible odds to serve in government, voiced a sharp critique of Musk. The outrage machine immediately spun into gear, claiming she called him one of the dumbest people on earth. But let's look closer at why a public servant might express such frustration with a billionaire who wields unchecked influence. It isn't a slap in the face to American innovation to question the erratic behavior of a man who controls our communication platforms and satellite networks. It is actually a defense of our democratic values to say that no one, no matter how rich, is above scrutiny. The real hypocrisy lies in those who claim to champion free speech, but then attack a congresswoman for exercising hers. When I read the attacks against her, it didn't make me angry at her. It made me sad for our discourse. It made me wonder why we are so quick to defend the egos of the ultra-wealthy while ignoring the systemic issues that leaders like Omar are trying to highlight. President Trump has always demanded loyalty to himself, rather than to the Constitution, and his alliance with Musk feels less like innovation and more like a merger of corporate and state power. They call it genius, but history often warns us about the concentration of such immense power in the hands of so few. Ilhan Omar didn't make a mistake. She exposed the fragility of this new oligarchy. She knew the backlash would be severe, yet she spoke up anyway because silence is not an option when the stakes are this high. The internet reaction wasn't a unanimous defense of Musk. It was a polarized scream, fueled by algorithms designed to keep us angry. From Ohio to Texas, many were actually saying, "Finally, someone is pointing out that the emperor has no clothes. This isn't a wave of support for a vision of the future. It is a defensive reaction from those who fear losing their grip on the old hierarchies. The sadness I feel is not for Musk, but for a society that prioritizes his tweets over the well-being of working families. As the sun rose higher, it became clear that this is a battle for the soul of our democracy. We are witnessing a clash between the power of money and the power of the people's voice. I spent time looking into the narratives coming out of Minneapolis, and the stories of panic seem largely manufactured to justify political witch hunts. While any fraud should be investigated, the intense focus on a specific immigrant community smells of scapegoating rather than a genuine pursuit of justice. My sources suggest that these inquiries are often politically motivated, designed to tarnish progressive leaders like Governor Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison. These are leaders who have fought for civil rights and worker protections, which makes them targets for those who prefer deregulation and corporate dominance. The allegations of a broad conspiracy often lack credible evidence and rely on prejudice rather than facts. It is dangerous to assume guilt by association simply to score political points against opponents. The idea that charitable donations are proof of a grand conspiracy is a leap that conveniently ignores the dark money flowing into conservative war chests. We must ask ourselves why the scrutiny is always so lopsided, targeting marginalized communities while ignoring corporate malfeasance. Secretary Besant might have the tools, but if the investigation is weaponized for political revenge, justice is not being served. We need to be very careful about cheering on investigations that look more like intimidation. The atmosphere shouldn't be one of anticipation for a crackdown, but of concern for civil liberties. If billions are indeed missing, let us find it. But let us not use it as a pretext to disenfranchise voters or demonize an entire culture. The politicians pushing these narratives often turn a blind eye to the massive tax breaks given to their donors. This scandal narrative is far from over, but we must remain skeptical of those who use it to divide us. True accountability applies to everyone, not just those who challenge the status quo. Let me paint a different picture for you, one where we sit together and discuss the reality of the working class, not the fantasies of billionaires. To understand the tension, we have to look at how Elon Musk has used his platform to punch down at the vulnerable. It wasn't a debate on policy. It was an instance where a powerful man amplified rhetoric that demonizes immigrants and struggling families. He talked about fairness, but his version of fairness seems to ignore the systemic barriers that keep so many Americans in poverty. He pointed fingers at Ilhan Omar, utilizing tired tropes that have been used to attack her identity for years. A true leader would use their platform to uplift, but Musk chose to feed the trolls. Omar's response, calling out his lack of understanding, was a moment of frustration that many of us share. We are talking about a man who can crash markets with a tweet, yet seems to lack basic empathy for the people his policies affect. Launching rockets is an engineering feat, but it does not grant moral superiority or political immunity. While he builds toys for the wealthy to escape Earth, Omar is fighting for the people trying to survive on it. She advocates for policies that keep families together and ensure living wages, while he fights against unions and worker rights. It feels unfair, because it is like the school bully crying victim when someone finally stands up to him. The hypocrisy is indeed off the charts, but it comes from those who claim to love the working man while worshiping a billionaire who would replace them with robots. Everyday folks are starting to see that you cannot build a great nation on the whims of the ultra-rich. We build it through collective action and ensuring that government serves the many, not the few. Regarding the earmark controversy, let's remember that community funding is a vital lifeline for many underserved neighborhoods. The attempt to strip funding from a substance abuse clinic because of clerical issues or political vendettas is cruel, not prudent. We see red flags raised selectively against minority-led initiatives while massive corporate subsidies pass without a whisper. The House stripping that earmark isn't a victory for fiscal responsibility. It is a blow to a community in need. It shows how easy it is to take money away from the poor while the rich get tax cuts. This isn't just an argument on a phone screen. It is a reflection of a deep rot in our political culture. When I looked at the news this morning, the roar I heard wasn't one of support for Musk, but a cry of exhaustion from people tired of the drama. People are realizing that leaders who worship wealth often despise the very people who create it. I saw a message from a teacher that truly resonated with me, but in a different way. She asked, "Why do we glorify men who hoard wealth while our schools are crumbling?" She was pointing out that while Omar faces relentless scrutiny, Musk's labor violations are often swept under the rug. Thousands of people liked that message because they are tired of the double standards. Another person wrote, "I can't believe we are defending a billionaire who mocks us while we struggle to pay rent." It makes me tear up to see so many regular folks realizing that the system is rigged against them. They weren't bullying. They were demanding a fair shake. They were asking a simple, powerful question. If you have so much power, why do you use it to punch down? It feels like the country is waking up to the reality that trickle-down economics and hero worship have failed us. We are realizing that while some leaders in Washington fight for corporate interests, progressives like Omar are the ones actually fighting for health care and education. The backlash against Omar is fierce because she threatens the established order. It is the sound of the powerful trembling because the people are demanding their share. This whole mess shines a light on why the Trump-Musk alliance is so dangerous for the average American. True leaders don't need to be worshipped. They serve with humility. Back in 2024, when Trump sought to return to power, he didn't see a patriot in Musk. He saw a deep pocket and a megaphone. He saw a way to bypass traditional media and spread his message without fact checks. Let him fly really meant let him operate without regulation, regardless of the cost to the environment or public safety. Today, that bond represents a consolidation of power that should worry every freedom-loving citizen. Trump's tariffs and walls isolate us, while Musk's monopoly on space transport makes the government dependent on a private individual. It is not a partnership of strength. It is a partnership of convenience for the elite. When Omar attacks Elon, she is criticizing the privatization of our future. She represents the idea that public goods should remain in public hands, not sold to the highest bidder. On one side, you have critical thinking and a demand for justice. On the other, you have blind loyalty and spectacle. Under this leadership, we have seen deregulation that endangers workers and environmental rollbacks that threaten our planet. It makes me emotional to think that we are handing our children's future over to corporate raiders. We need a leader who stands up to bullies, not one who is the biggest bully in the schoolyard. We need a government that acts as a shield for the vulnerable, ensuring that the American dream is accessible to all, not just the lucky few. This talk of rockets and tweets hits hard because it distracts from the real struggles at our kitchen tables. I was chatting with my neighbor Mike just yesterday over the fence. Mike is a truck driver from Michigan, and his hands are rough from years of honest labor. He looked at me with worry in his eyes and said, "My friend, when I hear them praise Musk, it scares me." For Mike, this isn't abstract politics. It is about his livelihood. He explained that he fears Musk's push for automation will eventually leave him without a job, and Trump's anti-union stance leaves him without protection. He sees factories where robots are replacing men, and the profits are going straight to the top. Elon is building the trucks to replace me, and Trump is cheering him on, Mike told me, his voice shaking. When Omar questions them, she is the only one asking what happens to guys like me. Then there is Sarah, a dedicated school teacher down in Florida. She called me up, anxious about the future of public education. She said, "Your friend, this push for privatization drains money from our classrooms." She worries that her students are being taught to value money over morality. She sees leaders like Omar trying to protect public funding, while the other side wants to turn schools into profit centers. Sarah wants equity. She wants every child to have a chance, regardless of their zip code. These stories show the truth. Trump and Musk are fighting for their own interests, not for Mike or Sarah. They are standing at the gate, charging admission to the future. When they attack critics like Omar, they are telling every dissenter to sit down and shut up. And that, my friends, is why this fight matters so much. It is about protecting the voice of the people from the crushing weight of oligarchy. To truly understand this moment, we must look at the path of resistance that brought us here. America has always been a land of struggle for rights, from the labor movement to the civil rights movement. I remember my father telling me about the unions that fought for the weekend and for safe working conditions. They were called radicals and un-American too, but they built the middle class. Think of the suffragettes who demanded a voice. They didn't ask for permission. They demanded justice. Progressives today understand this deep in their bones. They know that the spirit of America is found in the collective struggle for a better life. That is why we must support voices that challenge the status quo, even when it is uncomfortable. The Artemis program and space travel are exciting, but they shouldn't come at the cost of neglecting our problems here on Earth. We can have American flags on distant worlds, but we also need fed children and housed veterans right here. People like Ilhan Omar remind us that greatness is measured by how we treat the least among us. Talking about reallocation of funds to social services is not a heavy chain. It is an investment in our humanity. They want to lift us up, while the billionaires tell us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. Trump attacks dissent like a lion protecting his kill, not a leader protecting his people. When Omar critiques Musk, she is speaking truth to power. She is waking up a spirit of solidarity that refuses to be bought or sold. We are remembering that we are a nation of communities, not just consumers. Let's get down to the brass tacks of what actually happened, because the details reveal the power dynamic. On Monday, Elon Musk posted a message that dog-whistled to the worst elements of our society. He spread unverified rumors about immigration to distract from his own corporate controversies. He didn't name names initially, but the target was clear to anyone paying attention. For years, Omar has faced a barrage of conspiracy theories that have been debunked, yet they persist because they serve a political purpose. We have waited a long time for decency, haven't we? Instead of engaging in policy, Musk used his massive megaphone to punch down. Omar's response, calling him dumb, was a reaction to the sheer absurdity of a genius behaving so foolishly. It was like watching someone with incredible potential waste it on petty cruelty. The internet exploded because people are polarized, not because everyone agrees with him. By this morning, Tuesday, January 13th, the narrative was being spun by the powerful to silence the critique. I saw posts being shared, but many were bots or coordinated campaigns. The news headlines flashed, often missing the context of the provocation. But here is where it gets emotional for those of us who believe in equality. The backlash against Omar wasn't about justice. It was about enforcing a hierarchy where immigrants must remain silent. People referenced Trump's "go back" rhetoric, which is a stain on our history. Today, that hateful message is echoing again, and we must reject it. It isn't accountability, it is racism masquerading as patriotism. It is a segment of the population saying, "We only accept you if you agree with us." It feels like a dark cloud, but we must be the sunshine. As the dust settles, we see the resilience of those who stand for diversity. The voice of the inclusive America is cutting through the noise. It is about a love for a country that is big enough for all of us. When folks tell Omar to go back, they are betraying the very ideals of the statue in the harbor. If you do not respect the diversity of the house you live in, how can you claim to love it? It is a call for reflection. We are a nation built by people from everywhere, and my grandfather would have been ashamed of this exclusion. He came here for freedom, not to see new walls built. That is why this moment feels heavy, but also clarifying. We are seeing a clear line in the sand. On one side, you have the politics of grievance and exclusion. On the other, you have the politics of hope, inclusion, and shared prosperity. The support for Omar from her constituents is a vote of confidence in a multiracial democracy. It is the people saying, "We choose representation. We choose courage. We choose truth." This energy is waking up neighbors to the reality of the threats we face. It is bringing families together to discuss what tolerance really means. We are realizing we don't have to accept leaders who divide us. We can support those who fight for the marginalized. This isn't a win for the establishment. It is a reminder that the people are watching. The giant of democracy is awake, and it demands better. As we get closer to the heart of the story, think about who wins when America is divided. It is the politicians in Washington and the billionaires who profit from our discord. It is not the dreamers in the cornfields or the grandmothers on their porches. This clash has lit a fire, showing us exactly who is punching down and who is standing up. Take young Timmy, the boy from Iowa. He deserves to know that he can be an astronaut without having to worship a CEO. He needs to know that science is for everyone, not just the wealthy. When Trump talks about genius, he often leaves out the scientists who believe in climate change. When leaders like Omar critique Musk, they are telling Timmy that character matters just as much as intelligence. Timmy is watching, and he needs to see that we value kindness over profits. Then there is Grandma Ethel. She is worried that the tax cuts for the rich will cut her Social Security. She knows that affordability based on cheap labor isn't sustainable. She worries that the anger directed at immigrants is a distraction from the looting of the public trust. Seeing the country rally for fairness gives her peace. She knows she isn't forgotten by the progressives fighting for her benefits. This is why we must win the battle of ideas. It is about protecting Timmy's integrity and Ethel's safety net. The anger from the right is noise designed to drown out the facts. The real music of America is the sound of justice marching forward. We see that one path leads to oligarchy, while our path leads to true democracy. I know we are on the right road. So, my friends, we come to the end of this reflection, but the work is just beginning. As I finish my coffee and look at the sun, I feel a resolve I haven't felt in years. The noise of intolerance is loud, but the song of freedom is stronger. It is the sound of workers organizing for better wages. It is the sound of teachers demanding resources for their students. It is the sound of millions of Americans saying, "We deserve better." This clash between a politician's critique and a billionaire's ego has cleared the air. We know now who is really on the side of the people. We know that while some call our critics anti-American, history will call them patriots. Trump and Musk may hold the reins of power now, but the power of the people is the ultimate check and balance. The hypocrisy has been exposed, and a garden of resistance is blooming. Hold on to this feeling of solidarity. We are witnessing the return of an America that cares for its neighbors. We are not just watching history. We are shaping it. The critics can shout, but they cannot stop the march of progress. The future belongs to the compassionate. It belongs to the inclusive. It belongs to you. So wipe the doubt from your eyes and look toward the horizon. A more just America is possible, and we are going there together. May reason prevail, and may we protect the true spirit of the United States. My friends, if this story touched your heart, please don't let the moment end here. Join our community of critical thinkers on my channel. Click that subscribe button so you never miss a reality check with me. Leave a like if you stand with the working class and believe in holding power accountable. Most importantly, comment below and tell me your vision for a fair America. I read every single one, and I want to hear your voice. Let's keep this light burning together. Until next time, stay strong.